Lord MEHER, page 669. I'll start. The silence begins. We're continuing this chapter. This may be compared to a goods or freight train chugging along very slowly. The avatars and perfect masters carry their special disciples with them by express trains, and thus give them realization and free them from the ceaseless rounds of births and deaths. This good fortune is reserved for the very few of the inner circle. To those individuals who are inclined toward following bhakti and siva marga, which is devotion and service, the masters have shown the path of selfless service and repetition of God's name. And for the world at large, they have pointed to the path of observing rituals and ceremonies. But all these religious customs and rituals given by the masters are full of deep meaning. The Hindus' tal bhajan, singing of bhajans to the accompaniment of ringing bells, and the namaz, or prayers of the Muslims, are nothing but methods that do away with sanskaras, the greatest obstacle in the path of God realization. For example, take the kutsi, or sacred thread of the Zoroastrians. The three knots of the sacred thread signify the three basic principles of Zoroastrians: good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Now, what is the deep significance of jerking or shaking the kutsi before it is worn each day? It symbolizes the throwing off of the dust, or sanskaras, collected on the thread since the previous day. But the kutsi must be done sincerely and wholeheartedly. Otherwise, thousands of kutsis done out of sheer habit, with prayers murmured mechanically, are of absolutely no avail. Similarly, the Hindus' bhajan singing and the Muslims' namaz are a means to focus the mind on one object, God. They were given by the sages with the express purpose of diverting our minds from the worries of the world and concentrating our minds on our one Lord. You can keep on jumping here and there, uttering tukaram, tukaram for 1,000 years, and it will be of no use. For it is not the chanting or the ringing of the tal bhajan that the devas or gods or saints require. It is your bhakti, or your devotion, your love that is needed, not mere mechanical murmuring with your mind and the heart running continually towards worldly ideals. On the afternoon of Thursday, June 3rd, 1926, something happened which upset Baba, and he threatened to leave Meherabad by himself. Later in the evening, he explained to the Mandali, "Listen to me and remember this much. I do not feel bad about someone who is dying or who even dies, but if you disobey me, it pains me greatly." I was fed up this afternoon, and I said I wanted to leave. You looked serious and kept quiet. I said what I did because of your negligence. It is not possible for a Sadguru or the avatar to give up the physical body until he has completed the work of preparing his circle. My mood was spoiled this afternoon, but I could not say it was because of you. I have told you before that my being out of sorts or fed up is because of outside reasons. For example, consider a one-eyed fellow. He is looking at something with one eye, and you think he is staring at you. It is the same in my case. I am occupied with my work, and my outward behavior is so peculiar that you do not understand it. What do you know of the powers of the acharyas, perfect masters, who, for the sake of duty to humanity, come down from their highest state of infinitude to this lower plane and undergo unimaginable suffering. You have no idea what terrible bliss it is. Baba then advised the Mandali. A stone remains unmoved under any circumstances. You may kick it, spit on it, or worship it, but all these things have no effect upon it. As long as you do not disregard your likes and dislikes, and as long as you do not become indifferent to being kicked, spat upon, slandered, and ridiculed, you cannot hope for God realization. You have to burn up your ego. You have to become dust. Only the contact of a Sadguru can bring this about. Consider a man who is well perfumed. If he comes and sits among a crowd of people, his presence makes the surroundings fragrant. Similarly, if someone passes gas, the place smells foul and people turn their noses. For that reason, you should keep the company of saints whose godly atmosphere is beneficial to you. If you merge yourselves in the filth of the world, it will adversely affect your spiritual health. On the 5th, Baba urged the Mandali never to fear illusion and gave them this simile. Take, for example, a movie in which the villain harasses and oppresses a poor innocent child or woman. What great anxiety is caused when the same poor creature is tied down to be either burnt up in a fire or crushed under a motor car or a railway train. How eager all feel that a brave hero may turn up and save the unfortunate creature in the nick of time. If the victim overcomes his dilemma, the spectators feel happy. But if the villain gets the upper hand, they feel miserable. In short, you feel in accordance with what happens in the picture on the screen. But the moment the show is over, you realize, oh, it was merely a film, a picture on the screen. And the feelings that surged within you while watching it were without any basis. It was a mere drama, a creation of imagination or bas in which you were absorbed. In just this very way, think of this, our life and universe. We are all acting our parts on the stage of this world, and only when the play of life finishes do we realize that this was all a dream. It is a mere movie which has no substance to it, for it is false, made up. All that you see about you is absolutely nothing. Everything is false, an illusion, a play, a film, a mirage. Therefore, I repeatedly emphasize to one and all, do not be attracted by Maya. Take the name of God and seek and surrender to those who have become one with God, that they may safely advise and guide you aright. Although Gadaker had passed his exams, he was worried about his further studies. On the night of June 5th, Baba advised Gadaker, due to worry, this universe came into being, and now man is unable to realize his own real self due to engaging his mind in worry. I advise you to be at peace and remain quiet in the face of any agitation, any worry, and any calamity. Do not allow such thoughts to enter your mind, but push them toward me, saying, go to Baba. If you follow my advice, things will turn out fine. On June 9, Baba remarked to the Mandali, the number of my devotees is great, but the number of my disciples is much less. The devotee seeks the pleasure of his own devotion, while the disciple's only duty is to obey the commands of the master, which is much more difficult. Devotees select their own master and surrender to him. A master selects his own disciples. Therefore, many can become devotees, but only a very few can become disciples. Okay, Marian, would you like to pick up from here, please?
The silence begins. When Baba and the Mandali would go to Kaka Shahane's home in the Arangaon family quarters every Thursday, they would be served milk, tea, and bougias. On Thursday, June 10, 1926, Baba remarked, "Kaka's bougias are delicious and we feel happy to eat them. But the real pleasure lies in eating those bougias made from the flour of sanskaras and fried in the oil of devotion on the fire of love." The main topic of discussion at the Shahanes that afternoon was the purpose of religion. Baba stated, "The real meaning of religion is to know God, to see God, and to become one with God. Everything else about religion is an exercise in rites and rituals." As Ayoba noted in his diary of daily activities, Baba discoursed upon spiritual subjects for hours together, holding the Mandali spellbound with interest and attention.
Shanji was keeping a separate diary of Baba's discourses and explanations.
Baba then asked everyone to sing, pointing first to Kaka Chahane, who was taken by surprise and became nervous. However, all were happily amused to hear the song he stammered through. A circus came to Ahmednagar, and its prize wrestler, Ramamurti, came to Meherabad on the 10th for Baba's darshan. Afterward, Baba consented to let the Mandali go see the circus, but Adi Sr. was not able to arrange a bus. Baba later remarked, "It is for the best. This whole worldly existence is like a circus. If anyone wants to see it in its true form, he would not bother to see this so-called circus. He would find the world a circus." But the Mandali did not have to forego an entertaining evening altogether. Baba called them at 8:30 p.m. and ordered each of them to deliver a lecture in whichever language they knew the least. The hilarious results of twisted and mangled sentences on top of each other's discomfort and embarrassment as each struggled to say something delighted all. Baba then departed for the hill. 2 days later, Baba explained to the Mandali, "You should realize that the combined happiness and misery of the gross, subtle, and mental worlds is only equal to the shadow of a drop of the infinite ocean of bliss. Oh, what supreme bliss! What an inexhaustible treasure of God's beauty." For the last few months, Babajan has been saying, "My 7 months and 13 days are over." How deep must be the meaning of that? Perhaps it means that as a child takes 9 months to be born, a month and 17 days are left to complete some of her most important work. In reference to Naval's recent visit to Babajan, the master continued, "Naval went to Babajan and told her that he had come from me, whereupon Babajan replied, 'He is my shopkeeper.' This means that Babajan is the source of all the spiritual force working at present, and I am her sole agent whose warehouse is full of untold treasures." She then composed and recited this rhyme: "My shop is not located in any building or world. My world consists of only Yezdan or Merwan. There's an arrow.
The footnote just gave us that saying in another language. So let's go on.
Dr. Karkal invited Baba, the Mandali, and boys for tea on Saturday, June 12, 1926. But Baba arrived suddenly at his residence at 9 o'clock, before everything was ready. Baba did not wish to wait and distributed whatever treats had already been prepared. Tea was hurriedly made, which Baba served to everyone. He remarked to Karkal, "See how speedily everything is over?" Dr. Karkal replied, "Baba, you hold the key." In response, Baba observed, "The key to the world is only one, but it is in the hands of the five perfect masters. For example, a safe has only one key and no other key can unlock it. The five perfect masters control the safe, the world. One master is the keeper of the key, without which the safe cannot be opened. The second guards the safe, which cannot be opened without his prior consent. The third is the one who alone has the authority to use the key to unlock the safe. The fourth is the one who has the right to distribute the riches in the safe. And the fifth master is the one who has the power to authorize the distribution. Thus, there is only one key to the world, equally shared among the five masters. The five perfect masters, plus the 51 other God-realized souls, Majzubs and Jivan Muktas, control the key. These 51 are members of the parliament of the five perfect masters. 51 plus 5 equals 56. This number 56 never changes. Each of the perfect masters has a circle, and each circle consists of 12 members. In this way does the game of the world go on and on. All this, I am telling you, is a secret.
A Jivan Mukta is a soul who is liberated, attained mukti, but still incarnate, a seventh plane God-realized soul who is without duty to the universe. He bestows the grace of realization upon one other person before he dies. There are 3 Majzubs alive at any period of time, and there are 48 such Jivan Muktas or Shivatmas, along with the 5 Sadgurus or Kutubs, thus always making a total of 56 God-realized souls on earth at all times. When a perfect master drops the body, either he bestows realization upon one of his chief disciples and transforms him into a perfect master, or one of the Majzubs or Jivan Muktas takes his place as a living perfect master in control of the affairs of the universe.
Baba went to the circus late that afternoon with 10 of the Mandali. But after going all the way to Ahmednagar and watching the performances for only 15 minutes, Baba stood up and said it was time to leave. Baba did something similar the next day, Sunday, June 13, when they went to see a play. The Bombay Parsi Theatrical Company had come to Ahmednagar to perform the play Bhakta Surdas.
Evidently, a person who lived from 1478 to 1563 was the noted blind bard and devotee.
Can't hear him.
And hear it.
Surdas was the noted blind bard and devotee of Krishna. Surdas often saw Krishna sitting before him as a cowherd boy, listening to Surdas's hymns of praise. Once Krishna appeared and told him, Surdas, if you are keen to see the world, I shall restore your sight this very moment. Surdas replied, those who are endowed with eyes are really blind when they do not gaze upon your beautiful form. Having ears, they are nevertheless deaf when they do not choose to listen to the music of your melodious song. Having in their hands the power to attain the divine, they drown themselves in the ocean of sanskaras. Hence, I have no need for such hearts, such eyes or ears. Give me the ears, O Lord, that will listen to your song, eyes that will see your beautiful form, and a heart in which you alone are installed. Surdas lived from 1478 to 1563.
Baba went with everyone from Meherabad, a group of 150 people, including the school children, to see a special performance of the play. Baba's maternal uncle, Rustam, Mama, was an actor in the company. After the first act, however, Baba left his seat and went outside. Throughout the rest of the play, he paced back and forth outside and in the wings of the theater, talking through signs and on the slate with different ones. At 5:30, all returned to Meherabad in batches. Baba later asked about the story of the play, which Chanji narrated to him in detail in Gujarati. Baba remarked that the drama was good in that it conveyed the truth that when lust disappears, God appears. He rhymed, when lust has left, God is met. At the play, someone offered the mandali pan, which they ate. When Baba found out, he was displeased and reprimanded them. As long as you are with me, do not eat any food or anything else offered to you outside. Those who consume such edibles take in from the giver many sanskaras, which add to their own sanskaras. Zoroaster's death anniversary was observed on June 16. Baba stated, I will fast until the end of February 1927 because I want to breathe conversely, to give the finishing touches to the preparation of the circle. This contrary breathing is necessary to wipe out the remaining sanskaras of the circle, which become Prarabdha sanskaras. The next day, a sadhu came to Baba expressing his desire to see God. Baba asked him to observe silence for 1 year and to take food once every 24 hours. The sadhu agreed to this, but on the very first day, he started complaining about the fast. Baba admonished him, God is not some cheap fruit to be had for the asking. Superhuman patience and suffering are required to attain him. The sadhu was then fed at Shahani's house and sent to meet Narayan Maharaj at his ashram in Kedgaon. Satyamang, a notorious criminal of Ahmednagar district, happened to come to Meherabad with his gang for Baba's darshan. He had come hoping that with the master's blessing, his chosen profession would continue to be lucrative and that he would not be apprehended.
All right. Thank you, Marion. Wendy, would you like to pick up from here? You're muted. Oh, no, you're not.
Thank you. Um, when he arrived, Baba was talking with about 50 of the Mandali at the Makan. Baba was informed of a group's arrival. No one had any idea who the men really were. Sacha Mang and his accomplices sat on the ground before Baba after first prostrating themselves at Baba's feet. Baba suddenly became very serious and remained quiet for a few minutes. He then asked, "Where do you come from? And where are you going?" Sacha Mang answered, but did not disclose his identity. Baba looked directly at him and gestured, "You should be wearing bangles." Sacha Mang did not follow the meaning of this and asked the Mandali what Baba had said. Baba again repeated, "You should put bangles around your wrists. Why aren't you wearing them?" When one of the Mandali explained, Sacha Mang asked, "Why? What have I done?" "You are a coward," Baba exclaimed. "What do you mean?" Sacha Mang demanded. "A hefty man like you can extract water from stone," meaning that he could work hard and earn an honest livelihood. But instead, you are a thief, a dacoit, I'm not sure, thief, and rob people. Your very name strikes terror in the hearts of women and children who are unable to sleep when they think of you. Until then, the Mandali did not know who this man was, but after hearing Baba, they felt sure that this must be the infamous Sacha Mang, whom the police had been unable to catch despite their best efforts. Baba continued, "You support yourself on illegal gains. Aren't you ashamed to grow a mustache? You are not a man, you are a woman." Sacha Mang replied, "I inherited my profession. If I do not pursue it, how am I to maintain myself and my family? Can't you find another occupation other than robbing people? What are the rest of the people in the world doing? Do you mean to say that everyone in the world lives on stolen property?" To make such statements to this dangerous criminal was unheard of, for even the police were terrified of Sacha Mang and his gang. But this wolf became like a lamb before Meher Baba and humbly asked, "Maharaj, show me what I am to do. I am ready to give up this way of life if I find some employment to maintain my family." Baba replied, "That can be arranged immediately, but how can you stop stealing? Despite my repeated warnings, I find abounding negligence, which pains me deeply." "No, Maharaj, I swear I will turn my face from such a life if provision is made for my children. Once that is done, I will never rob again." Excuse me. Baba then asked seriously, "Do you know before whom you are swearing? Do you have any idea to whom you are giving this promise? If you break your promise to God, your life will be ruined. God knows everything. Do you understand?" "Yes, Maharaj, I understand. I will never repeat my past actions. I will never break my promise." At this, Baba stretched out his hand and gestured, "Give me your promise." Immediately, Sacha Mang came forward and touched Baba's palm with his own. Baba then warned, "If you go back on your word to me, you will become completely paralyzed. Remember this." Baba then arranged for the maintenance of his family and instructed Satchamang to come to Meherabad once a week. From that day on, the threat of robbery disappeared from Ahmednagar district, and people were greatly impressed by this miraculous occurrence. Everyone was amazed at Baba's intervention. For a robber like Satchamang, who had successfully eluded the police for years, to submit to a spiritual master and surrender to him was something unheard of. Satchamang held to his promise and remained faithful for some time. But soon his hands began itching with the desire for stealing. He stealthily entered a house one night to rob it and was about to steal a few valuable articles when he saw Meher Baba standing in front of him. Frightened, he recalled Baba's words, "God is ever present. He sees everything. Nothing is hidden from him." Suddenly, everything became dark as if he had gone blind. Satchamang grew pale and closed his eyes. When he opened them, Baba had disappeared. Leaving the stolen goods behind, he hastened to Meherabad to find Baba. And when he saw Baba, tears streaming down his cheeks as he confessed, "Maharaj, please forgive me this once. I have gone back on my word." Feigning ignorance, Baba asked, "What are you talking about? What happened?" Satchamang cried out, "You know everything. Forgive me." And he fell at Baba's feet. Baba pardoned him because of his sincere repentance and warned, "Never do it again. Paramatma knows everything and sees all." Thereafter, Satchamang never committed a crime or theft again, and the police even availed themselves of his helping in tracking down other criminals. Satchamang made it a practice to be present at Meherabad every Thursday and take part in the gatherings there. Faith in Meher Baba's divinity was born in him, and he changed completely. At one word from Baba, he was ready to sacrifice his life. On one occasion, he begged the master for the chance to serve him. Baba replied, "When the appropriate time comes, I will surely give you the opportunity to serve me." Bowman B. Irani was married to Bailey's sister, Tamina, and Bowman G. became a disciple of Meher Baba, and he, his wife, and their two daughters had been staying at Meherzad since 1925. A few years later, when Baba went to Persia in 1929, the Bamanji family was left alone in Meherabad. Bamanji became friendly with Satchamang, who helped the family a great deal. Satchamang also kept watch for some years at Meherabad. At this time, Baba began fasting, eating only one meal a day at 3 o'clock to enable the Mandali to share in his fast, which he had indicated would last until February 1927. Baba ordered them to start a rotating fast. Each man was to fast one after the other. They were to begin at 8 p.m. on 19 June 1926 and continue until 3 p.m. of the following day, and rotate in turns for 19 hours each day. Mohan was appointed as the first manager to the schedule, the rotation, to make certain that the Mandali took their proper turns during the 6 months. June 21st was the Muslim holiday of Bakr-e-Eid, celebrated in memory of Abraham's offering of his son Isaac as a sacrifice to God.
footnote says some theorize that Abraham was in fact Zoroaster. That is the same historical figure memorialized in two different traditions.
The holiday was observed at Meherbad, and two of the Muslim Mandali, Karim and Barsal, were made to stand up and explain the significance of the holiday as best they could. Remarking about the Muslim custom of slaughtering a goat on this day, Baba conveyed, they feel that if the Prophet killed a goat on this day, they should do it too. They should try to kill their minds instead of goats. What is the use of slaughtering defenseless animals? Baba added, if I ordered the Mandali to wear hats and not to go out in the sun bareheaded, after some years, it will be considered a religious practice to always wear a hat in the sun. In the beginning, the holidays of every religion were strictly observed at Meherbad.
Thank you, Wendy. Rosalie, pick up, please.
Hey, Baba.
But gradually, as each of the Mandali began to understand things more clearly, these festival days were ignored. During these early years, however, Baba would explain to the Mandali the significance of their holidays and thus gave them a real understanding of their true spiritual meaning. Only after basking in the wine of love did all come to know that love is the only real religion, whose practice consists in remaining bowed at Baba's feet. On one occasion, reflecting on his sense of humor, Baba related, Ajoba is very old. He has a family and children and is spending his sanskaras in this life. Suppose in his next birth, he reincarnates as a female child. God forbid. I see this old man now, and I also see him as he will be in his next birth. And that makes me laugh. Am I not justified in being humorous? Everything I see as a dream. But in spite of that, I feel bothered about it all because I have to work for others to make them see it as a dream. Upasni Maharaj was a woman in his previous birth, and he will never take birth again. God realization is usually obtained while living in human form, as with the human form comes authority. But there is a special authority that comes with the male human form. A perfect master has a circle of 12 men and 2 female appendages. Of the 14 people, all the members of the circle are males, except the 2 women who play the roles of spiritual mother and sister. Babajan is a Kutub, one of the 5 Sadgurus of this age. From the 56 God-realized people, 1 woman becomes a perfect master, and another is also perfect, a Jivan Mukta or Majub. That woman is presently in Tibet. She has a group of disciples, but usually stays in the mountains, and very, very few ever see her. The remaining 54 God-realized beings are men. The number of God-realized souls on earth is eternally fixed at 56 and is never altered except during avataric ages, when God directly descends as a man. On 22nd June, 1926, Baba revealed, a Sadguru is like an ocean, a limitless stretch of water. Empty your mind of all Mayavic desires, and the waters of the ocean will find a way in. The waters of knowledge, power, and bliss. The Jivan Muktas, Majubs, and other spiritual beings in the hierarchy are the pipelines for the waters of realization. They distribute the ocean's waters to deserving candidates who are prepared and who are being prepared. Continuing the simile of water, Baba stated, in gaseous form, water evaporates and forms clouds. Now, you cannot use this gas or vapor in clouds for railway engines or any other steam-driven conveyance. For that, you have to pump water from the ocean, river, or some subsidiary. Then you fill the tanks of the engine and produce steam to work it. These clouds of condensed vapor may be compared to majubs, the steam being formed and used for work in the world by Sadgurus. And you, the bhaktas, lovers, are the water which must be heated, boiled, and transformed into steam. In other words, the essence must be prepared to change its very form. On the other hand, ice and snow are like worldly people who have no inclination toward spirituality. They are so cold. 2 days later, while explaining about God-realized Majubs, Baba disclosed, Majubs are absorbed in their ecstasy and appear insane to the world. They are like a runaway carriage. Its horses are galloping off without the driver. The carriage is the Majub himself. The horses are the faint residue impressions of his mind, gross, subtle, and mental. And the driver is the intellect and ego. The Majub does not have any sanskaric ego mind, and hence his carriage is driverless. For some days, there has been much discussion about the Theosophical Society, headed by Annie Besant, and about Krishnamurti, who was being promoted by her as the new world teacher. On 26 June, Baba remarked to some Theosophist visitors who had come for darshan, be always in search of truth, real truth. Wherever it is found without any caste distinction or prejudice, control your passions, renounce Maya, and create a longing to see the Almighty. After they left, Baba commented about theosophy. A time will come when the world will bow to those on whom my nazar will fall. They came here for darshan, and that is good for them. But Krishnamurti, a new world teacher, God forbid. Compare Ramakrishna of Calcutta with Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti is living in all majesty and splendor, pomp and power, and moving about England in aristocratic, fashionable circles, playing tennis and golf, leading a most comfortable life. He does not have the slightest idea, not even a wisp of the real truth. So it is also with these fussy, showy theosophists. Their greatness lies only in editorship, writing and speaking with high-sounding words about planes, powers, colors, society, creed, in a superficial knowledge of the shadow of truth, and in behaving and making others believe in the greatness of themselves and none other. Truth is far, far beyond this. Baba quoted a couplet from Hafez and explained its meaning. If you desire to aspire for realization, you should hold your very life in the palm of your hand, ready to give it up at any moment. Then alone will you be deemed worthy and be able to see the gates of truth. The topic then turned to the American Christian Mission and the Salvation Army, two organizations which were doing their utmost to convert people to Christianity, declaring it to be the only sure road to salvation. Baba asked, why all this? Why shake the faith of people of other religions and induce them to give up their own religion? Is religion the truth or even a way to the truth? He then elucidated, truth has nothing in the least to do with religion. It is far, far beyond the limited and bare dictates and doctrines of a religion. Truth is bare and simple in its requirement that you give up Maya, particularly lust, anger, and greed. Anybody can aspire and attain to the truth. There are no caste distinctions or prejudices there. Muslims say that realization can only be obtained through the Mohammedan religion, Islam, and they bring forth the silly arguments of Sharia, insisting on circumcision and so forth. How ridiculous. Do any of you know why Muslims practice circumcision? Their great prophet Muhammad propagated the divine doctrine of cutting their mind, Maya, and sanskaras. That is, keeping their minds, which are ever wandering in worldly Maya, in check. He told them to be aloof and away from the clutches of Maya and to destroy their sanskaras as much as possible. But since they were unable to grasp the deep meaning of this divine doctrine given by their prophet, they or some fine theologians invented and preached cutting of the foreskin and so forth. And the people blindly accepted and followed these doctrines as if they had been given by their own prophet. And they lay particular stress on the same. How ridiculously reverse from the real and original doctrine taught by their great prophet.
Thank you, Rosalie. Maho, would you like to pick up?
Yes. Page 681. The same is true in every religion. The Parsis and their casti, the Christians and their baptism. So also the Christian philosophy espoused by the present day so-called ministers to the effect that salvation can be had only by accepting the faith of Christ and by undergoing baptism, that all non-believers in Christianity are heathens, and so on. What is the meaning of all these practices in the sacred name of religion? If it is not a sin to make others doubtful of their religion, it is surely a great weakness, or rather cowardice. What earthly benefit is there in increasing the number of people who believe in a particular faith and boasting before the world that their faith has so many thousands or even lakhs of followers? Is the merit of a religion to be measured by a count of numbers of its believers and followers? If you give the poor, needy, destitute, and illiterate teeming millions of India the little inducement of some good food, clothing, and money, they would agree to accept and embrace any creed. And then they would leave it again and accept another creed if some better inducement is offered them from another faith. What's great in all of this? Nothing. Continuing, Baba advised, I say, therefore, will control your mind. Lead a pure, clean, and virtuous life. Remove low desires. Follow one who has realized God, and then you are saved. Following code in this sense does not mean giving up your own creed or religion. The mind is to be renounced. If you try to set green grass on fire, it will not burn. But if you set a match to a haystack, it will immediately catch fire and burn to ash. The haystack symbolizes the accumulation of sanskaras. In order for green grass to dry, it has to be kept near a fire. This means that in order to destroy one's sanskaras, a person should stay with a sadguru in whom the divine knowledge is always burning. In his contact and company, sanskaras accumulate, but also dry. Finally, with the flame of his grace, he sets fire to and uproots all one's sanskaras. Even red sanskaras of lust and anger, which are the fastest growing and most deeply rooted, are nothing to worry about if you have contact with the Sadguru. What a time, Kali Yoga, we live in. Such barbarous, brutal bloodshed for religion on one side, and then the forced avatar, or Krishna, like Krishnamurti, and associated prejudices on the other. See the horror done in the name of religion. Look at the recent riots in Delhi, born out of ignorance and cruelty, occurring between Hindus and Muslims over such childish and trivial causes. all for the sake of religion. At the same time, many false prophets have appeared and hypocrisy is rampant. People nowadays want religious doctrines to suit their own tastes and ideas of life. And the crafty leaders who observe all this and preach accordingly find thousands of followers, while the real workers and sincere believers in truth and religion, in the real sense of the word, have a hard time impressing their high ideals on the mind of their listeners and turning them towards the same. Such is the 20th century, with all of its so-called realization, its daily advances and inventions in the sciences. Baba mentioned Aurobindo Ghose, saying he was an example of an educated, well-read person who was on the path.
Aurobindo Ghose, 1872 to 1950, contributed to the spread of Eastern religious thought in Europe and America with his prolific writings, which were influenced by Western humanistic philosophy due to the university education he received in England. Baba revealed that Aurobindo was on the sixth plane.
Wow. Okay. On 28 June 1926, a Hindu devotee came to see Baba. Usually Baba would permit the man darshan, answer his questions, and give him some instructions. But that day, Baba refused to see him. It turned out that the person had come to speak to Baba about some financial matter. The man's nature was good, Baba explained. Quote, when he first came to Mehrabad, I asked him which he preferred, God or the world. He answered, God. So by coming to ask for my help to solve his financial difficulties, he was shrinking from his word. Since he is sincere of heart, to prevent him from doing so, I refused to see him. The man also wanted to marry and was anxious to have the master's encouragement. But Baba did not approve, explaining, for you, marriage would be a great stumbling block in the path to God realization. But for you to have connection with a woman outside of marriage would be the worst thing imaginable. Yet, even marriage will turn out to be a hindrance and a barrier in the path. Baba did not encourage him to marry as he had hoped. On other occasions, however, Baba would recommend that certain persons marry. Baba spoke about marriage on the 28th. The fact is that if one is not lucky enough to get realization or has not surrendered to a Sadguru or has not married by a special order of his master, then ordinary marriage is nothing but the greatest possible check in his path, let alone sex outside of marriage. Renunciation means this, Maya, to do nothing without the order of a Sadguru. No man who has a woman as his wife will ever perfect be. And yet, masters and Sadgurus have been married. But for the ordinary human beings, the greatest hindrance is the marriage. But this lack, realization after marriage, like Upasni Maharaj, is also the outcome of the previous preparation. If Maharaj had not married, he would have had to take birth again, because a Sadguru is to be free of all sanskaras before realization. Later, while explaining about the inevitable realization of his circle, Baba stated, "If I wished, I could give realization to the members of my circle immediately. But giving this experience abruptly does not enable them to come down for duty. And then who would do that? Suppose you give realization to your hand and then mystified. It stops working as before. What would do its work? This is why Sadhguru always prepared their circle members gradually, and what is being done is unknown to them, taking them up for realization." While Baba was discoursing on the 29th, someone asked, "Why are there 56 realized souls in the world in every age?" Baba replied, "The number denotes perfection. This number appears to be perfect to those who manage these spiritual workings, as one supreme being alone cannot manage the whole affair single-handedly. He requires assistance, and the number of assistants is fixed at 56. For instance, a toddy shopkeeper needs several helpers, one to prepare the toddy, another to serve it, another to collect payment, etc. But if there is no shop, what is the use of helpers? In the same way, when there is no universe, as is the case for the majzubs, who are realized but have no consciousness of the world and its affairs, for them, there is no work. To return to the question, the universe must be maintained, and to carry out the affairs of the universe in an orderly manner, 56 God-realized persons are required. The number is fixed at 56 because a number less than that cannot do all the work and the different duties. Suppose a man has lost one of his eyes. Although he can still see with the other eye, he sees with difficulty. Therefore, 2 eyes are given to each human being to enable him to see perfectly.
Oh, Rainey, are you ready to read?
Yes, okay.
Sure.
In just the same way, 2 ears, 1 nose, 2 hands, and 2 feet are provided. In short, everything in nature goes on according to rules and regulations and principles laid down by the experienced or realized sages, and nothing is haphazard. All these explanations are beyond comprehension by your intellect. And such understanding is virtually useless unless one has the real experience of realization. However much you may exert your brains, in the end, it is all like the caterwauling and barking of cats and dogs until such time as you experience the wind of reality. The knowledge and experience of a Sadguru cannot be grasped through the intellect because it is altogether beyond the intellect. As Hafez says, this knowledge is never grasped by the intellect's noose. Untie the noose and you will obtain it. On the 30th of June, explaining to the Mandali about Maya, Baba expounded, God as Ishwar uses Maya and her attributes to conduct the affairs of the universe, whereas Paramatma is far, far beyond Ishwar and uses only Ninyan and all-pervading power, that source from which all other powers emanate. The Sadguru uses Maya to make others free from Maya. Suppose Arjuna is Paramatma and his cane is God. And suppose you wrap a 7-colored string, Maya, around this cane. The string has only touched the cane, God, and not Arjuna, Paramatma, who remains aloof. Using another example from Angal Pleda's Kirtan, the previous Sunday, Baba continued, suppose you come along and mistake a string for a snake. This mistake creates Maya. But if you see that the string is only a string and nothing else, is Maya gone? No, because the accompanying suppositions and fears, what sort of serpent is it? How long is it? Will it bite? These are Maya. In the end, when it is found that it is only a string, you laugh at your false presupposition because your fears are gone. The illusion is removed. And in the same way, when one attains realization, he laughs at these false notions of Maya, the world and all its connections, for he knows that they are totally false and not real. If any desire, passion, or anger enters your head, take it that it is Maya, the source of all worries, troubles, and anxieties. The moment it enters your brain, throw it out. Don't let it in at all. If a mad dog happens to enter your room and you would stand up and shout to drive it away, if on the other hand you give it milk and bread, it will linger there and it will not go away. Similarly, Maya is like a mad dog. Drive it away as soon and as forcibly as you would drive away a rabid dog. Only then will you be saved from Maya's clutches. And continuing, Baba explained, people say that God created Maya, but that is not so. For example, take the hair on the head. The hair is Maya, and the head is God, the creator. Although the hair grows on the head does not know how, why, and where it comes from. And then how can it be said that the head created hair or God created Maya? But in a way, the very creation of Maya itself is dependent on God. Maya is sheer illusion, the force of imagination. Where there is lust, there is Maya. Where there is anger, there is Maya. Where there is greed, there is Maya. He who renounces Maya finds everything. Do not be a slave to Maya. Subjugate Maya and you will see God in all his perfection. But it is next to impossible to realize God. One must die to gain this state, not by drowning or committing suicide, but by renouncing Maya and freeing oneself from its deluding allurements. And this Maya is so tyrannical and powerful that even the best of persons succumb to its lures. The real heroes who eat her up are very rare. So hold tightly to my feet to ease your way, or else you will not get even a whiff of reality, and your strenuous efforts to reach the goal, age after age, will not bring you any nearer to it. When someone mentioned doing yoga, Baba remarked, "For you, no yoga and no boga, worldly enjoyment. All at once, quite in the dark and completely unknown to you, you are being taken up." What the Sadguru does for the members of his circle is to weaken and clear away their intellects and egos gradually, establishing a permanence to their eventual annihilation. He allows the minds of his circle members to remain because the Sadguru's working is continuously going on behind their minds, though he keeps them in the dark. Baba then distinguished between Maya and sanskaras. Suppose you are assailed by anger, lust, and greed, or any undesirable emotion or feeling. This is Maya's work. But suppose you feel hungry, thirsty, or sleepy, which is due to sanskaras. If you eat, drink, and sleep, it doesn't matter because these are essential to life. But anger, lust, and greed are to be driven away the moment they enter your mind. Say, "Maya, get out. I don't want you." During this explanation, Shankanath entered.
Footnote, Charkanath was a Harijan from Abednagar who had moved to Meherabad.
Baba joked, "Shankar, turn into Kankar, stone, so that you may remain unaffected by the wiles of that witch Maya." Baba then added, "A stone may be worshipped with flowers or it may be smeared with refuse, but it remains unaffected. Remember, the real yogi is he whom nothing of the world can touch. He remains unconcerned and unaffected in all surroundings and circumstances." 1st of July 1926 was a Thursday, and as usual, the floor of the Mandali's quarters was smeared with fresh cow dung. 1 year had almost passed since the master had begun his silence, and the Mandali had hopes that Baba would start speaking again that day. But instead, he indicated that he would observe silence until February 1927. In explaining the difference between the state of a Majjub, perfect master, and an ordinary man, Baba gave this simile. For example, there is a man sailing in a boat on the ocean. He is enjoying the sea breezes, being out on the water. But if the man himself turns into the ocean, what is the use of the boat? When the man was without knowledge of the ocean and its greatness, it was necessary for him to use the boat as a means of enjoying the pleasures of boating. But what care does he have for the boat when he himself becomes the ocean? This is the state of a Majjub who does not care for the boat, the body, which now drifts here and there at the mercy of the waters. The Sadguru, however, does care and make use of the boat. He can move and carry it whenever and wherever he likes by catching hold of it from the bottom, from under the water. Whereas mankind is drifting here and there without advancing at all towards the goal. Such is the difference between the states of a Majjub, Sadguru, and an ordinary human being. But this difference, though apparently quite trivial, is actually tremendous, beyond imagination.
Mona, would you like to read?
Who, me?
Mona.
Mona. Okay. I thought you said Mahu.
If she's not in the mode at the moment, we're able to. All right, let's go back to the top here. I'll read. The highest state of knowledge, bliss, and power, being a state beyond imagination, is a fact more emphatic, impressive, and real than the fact of your speaking with and hearing me now, and more true than your own existence at this very moment here with me. 1,000 times more true is that fact of realization that, than the apparent fact of your present life and existence, which you believe to be true. This is a hard one for you human beings to accept, but to us who experience the reality, all of this is a mere dream. And this fact is so vividly perfect that he who has actually become one with God and experienced him cannot describe the experience with this mouth. Words are too poor a means to give a description of this highest state. But consider the powers of one able to give this knowledge, power, and bliss to others. Apart from this, what would you think when we perfect ones say that we can actually play with these, the highest knowledge, bliss, and power that are attributes of perfection or truth? Otherwise, how do you think we would be able to give experience of these to others? How can your limited mind grasp and understand all this? For this is beyond the capability and powers of the intellect. So how can we explain that truth? How can we explain it to your intellect, which is limited and able to receive knowledge only up to a certain point? The Sadguru must take your intellect out of its present limited state and make it unlimited. In short, he must give you a personal experience of realization, and then you would understand it at once. I am Prabhu, the Lord. I am all knowledge, power, bliss. You see me, talk with me, and touch me, but I dwell in infinity. My state is indescribable. Later, Baba discoursed about the different states of bliss. If the bliss of the God-realized soul is compared to a human body, then the enjoyment of yogis is like the shadow of that body. And the pleasure which a worldly man enjoys is like seeing the shadow in a reflection in a pool of water. Thus, ordinary people cannot even imagine what real bliss is. The Majubs have mind and body, but no intellect and ego. So they enjoy supreme bliss completely. In yogis, besides the mind and body, there are intellect and ego, so they do not enjoy perfect bliss. That is why I say that ordinary men have not the foggiest idea what bliss really is. They cannot imagine it. Then at 8 o'clock, Baba went up the hill to the water tank, but returned shortly carrying his bedding. From that night on, he began resting on a raised platform in front of the cabin inside Darbar. Baba's stay in the tank had lasted for almost 2 months, from May 3rd to June 30th. Now he began his second stay inside Darbar, where he continued writing his mysterious book, which he indicated was still incomplete. Gustaji was in charge of the storeroom, located on the post office veranda. When Naja, Masaji, the cook Chowdhury, or the women came from the family quarters, required items, they would write their requests on a piece of paper and send it to Gustaji. After he initialed it, the list would be sent to Baba to scrutinize. Baba would initial it and return it to Gustaji, who would then issue the items. In this manner, a rigid check was placed on all supplies that were issued from the storeroom at Meherabad. During this period, Baba would personally look after the health of the women Mandali. Relaxing on the veranda of the women's quarters at the post office, he would inquire about each one's welfare. According to his order, when he was in seclusion, the women were to inform him about their health through written notes. Once Korsha had sent a note to Baba that she had a severe headache. Baba sent one in return, instructing her to take a quinine tablet immediately and one when she went to sleep. This remedy proved effective. Throughout his life, Baba always had a soft spot for animals and did not like to see them suffer. On July 7th, 1926, he saw a gypsy on the road leading a donkey that had a wound on its hind leg. Baba at once stopped what he was doing and went to meet the gypsy. After petting the animal, he persuaded the man to let him take it to the hospital. Baba personally cleaned the wound and applied the medicine and bandaged the donkey's leg. In addition to the manual labor of grinding millet and wheat for half an hour a day, for the past few months, Baba was also washing the clothes of 5 boys every afternoon. But on the 7th, finding the men Mandali grinding the grain carelessly and not following the regular schedule, Baba stopped them from this work. But he continued doing it. On the same day, Baba distributed prasad in honor of Gulmai and Narayan Maharaj's birthday. A group from Andhra Pradesh in southern India came for the master's darshan and sang a song in Telugu to him. Baba directed Gopal Swami, one of the Meherabad residents, to sing with them since he also spoke Telugu. Afterwards, Baba explained some of Kabir's famous couplets. One God adorning King Dasarath's house equals body, equals Jivatma, equals Paramatma as the embodied individual soul. One God beating in every heart equals mind, equals Ishwar, equals Paramatma, the creator. One God pervading the entire universe equals spirit, equals Shiva, equals Paramatma, conscious of the real self. One God beyond the 3 worlds equals self, Parat Par, unconscious of himself in the beyond state. To know himself, God became the individual soul, but he thereby became bound by karma or actions. No one escapes from the results of actions, but actions should be done in such a way as to balance ordinary sanskaras by their opposites or reverse sanskaras. Devotion, giving of alms, prayer, bhajan, kirtan, and repetition of God's name create such sanskaras that burn away ordinary sanskaras. But penance, fast, and yogic practices create still more bondage. A real fast means to starve the mind, not the body. The meaning of being God realized is to experience the sound sleep state in the awake state. The best way to create these opposite sanskaras is to surrender to a perfect master, to remain in his company, and to fully carry out the behests to the letter. Touching again on the topic of yoga, Baba explained about the samadhi state of yogis. Samadhi gained by yogic practices does not, in a way, enable one to travel the path more easily. For example, you walk, advance, and then rest, as in sound sleep. This rest gives you energy to proceed further. That's all and nothing more. In short, although the samadhi state allows one to rest, it is not the only essential for advancement. There are better, easier, and quicker means, such as the sahavas of a master. On Saturday, 10th July, 1926, the first anniversary of Baba's silence was observed. The school and dispensary were closed, and the Mandali fasted with Baba for 24 hours. Meanwhile, from 9 to 10 in the morning, Baba sat near the Duni. 2 or 3 of the Mandali reported that they had dreamt about Babajan's demise. All right, we're going to stop here. 690.
Thank you, Marvin.